Hello, my name is Bryce, and welcome to Chunk Style Remix. Don't worry about it. Today is particularly special to me because I have finally painted my first mini in over 22 years. Yes, I was about 16 when I painted my last mini. Not well, mind you. I had a Warhammer 40k Blood Angels army that I would hit with some spray paint primer, hit it with some Blood Angel spray paint, maybe do a little bit of details, and then call it a day. It truly was a simpler time. Now, even though I hadn't directly engaged with the hobby for over 2 decades, I still had a lingering fondness that never quite deteriorated. About 4 or so years ago, I started to re-ingratiate myself with the lore and world of Warhammer 40k, and it wasn't long before it sunk its ceramite-coated power claws back into me. Now in the last year or so, I've started collecting again, and I found that it wasn't simply Warhammer that caught my attention, but tabletop war games as a whole. And although I truly appreciated the great mini painters of old, it was never a part of the hobby that I was really interested in. I liked painting, but it wasn't my main thing. But now I have a deep yearning, and I'd love it if you would join me in this endeavor of my exciting painting journey, as it were. I decided to start as simple and straightforward as it gets with this Fanatic starter set by thearmypainter. And it comes with 7 acrylics, 2 metallics, 1 primer, and 1 wash. And most importantly, it also comes with a brush and this nifty little knight, which I think is the perfect guy to get me started. Now that's out of the way, let's get this guy painted. Okay, so we're getting set up here. Here is the Fanatic starter paint set. Pretty nifty all in one, I gotta say. If you have never painted anything, this will at least get you started. We have matte black, matte white, leather brown, ultramarine blue, green skin, plate mail metal, greedy gold, demonic yellow, pure red, brush on primer, strong tone. Clearly I didn't plan this out when I was going to do a little voiceover. I have a nifty little thing of stickers here for some colors that you do not have. And an actually handy little painting guide that has all sorts of different basics. It doesn't have the instructions on how to paint this particular mini in it, but it does have a lot of different things about, all the different color ranges, a little bit of mild color theory, and just, tips for primering and all that kind of stuff. And here's where the meat of it is. Oh, don't want to lose that. And here he is, the little man. And man, it was just now that I realized and remembered how tiny miniatures are. Go figure, right? Minis are mini. Okie doke. Let's get to it. So I don't have any of those fancy holders or wine corks, so I used the next best thing, which was some Gorilla putty and a medication container, because boy, do I have a lot of those. We're to start with the brush on primer. I've used primer in the past, back when I painted when I was younger, but it was always a spray primer. I've never used brush on primer, and I cannot state how nervous I am. In general, just painting this. I am tentative even doing the primer. This was the first time my brush has touched a model in over 22 years, and I might sound like a broken record at this point, but this is alien to me. It didn't even bring back memories. It felt completely foreign to me in a good way, but wow, this was a big step, and I'm hoping to at least help anybody else who's trying to make the leap into painting and everything to, try not to be intimidated and to just go for it, follow directions, just follow, get a starter set like this and just follow the steps. It even has a QR code you can scan, and then it'll open a 20-minute YouTube video that I skimmed through that literally has a guy going over step-by-step how to paint it. Here's the pure red we're using. And the step-by-step, by the way, too, he does all the highlights and everything. I stopped at the wash. I just did the wash, and that was that. Oh, and also my medication container was super sticky, so I MacGyvered some tape on it because I'm a smart boy. Now it feels much better. I can't recall if it told me to, but everything that I've read and all the painters I follow say they always thin their paints a little bit, and also I really, really didn't want to slop it on there, so I just added a couple of drops, and for the first couple of colors, I use way too much paint on the palette. Also on the palette, I didn't have a palette, so I just used the lid of the container in the Army Painter box, and it actually worked surprisingly well. My anxiety is so spiked at this moment while I'm painting, it is insane. My brother actually called me on the phone while I was painting, and just the way I answered it, he was just like, "Is everything all right, dude? You good?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just painting." I said, "Isn't that supposed to be relaxing?" I am really being careful as I possibly can here. In terms of even just putting paint on the brush, I put as little as possible. I wipe off any excess every single time. I am putting the thinnest of coats. And at the end product, even though I am happy with how it turned out for my first mini, I can see a lot of the issues. I could see where I put it on too thin and where I should have been a little more confident. But I think for a first go, it does go fairly well. Moving on to their ultramarine blue. If you were doing the same thing here, you could use quite literally just the tiniest little drop. So the opposite of what I did. At this point, I'm still not quite feeling confident yet. I'm still working on it. I just am going through the steps, just like one piece at a time. Onto matte black. And I was not confident about this. I was a little terrified, to be honest. Even though there is not a lot of black used on this at all, I believe it was just the scabbard for the sword and the gloves in the instructions had said that they were painted black. It's just, you know, black can be intimidating because covering it up and covering up any mistakes. Right here, when I was doing the scabbard, I realized just how intense it is watching people who are really veteran painters painting minis. And I was having trouble actually getting coverage here, maybe because I didn't thin enough, but I think part of it was just the lack of confidence because I was so nervous for my first mini. And I found that I was having a hard time actually getting enough paint on the scabbard or on the brush in order to actually cover the scabbard. And some veterans, they just seem to slap it all on, but they just know exactly what they're doing. And I haven't gotten there yet. We moved on to the leather brown. And I almost started painting the knife brown because I thought maybe it was also in a sheath, but it was not. But I was able to cover that up with the chainmail silver. Now, when we get to the point where I start the chainmail silver, I don't show it the camera the bottle because at the end of this clip, my cat tried to jump on the windowsill next to me, and she's a big cat. She didn't quite get it, and so she jumped off and sunk all 4 of her claws into my back. The yelling I did, the pain I felt, I kind of raged out a bit. I went out of my office and apologized to my wife and daughter for yelling. But once I came back in, I found that all of that pent-up anxiety that I was feeling and all that adrenaline that I let out then, I came back to this with a bit more of a zen feeling, which was wonderful. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise. One thing I thought was interesting about the chainmail color, and it was probably my eyes, probably my setting, my light up setting, and my lighting setting, pardon me, was that I was having a bit of difficulty, again, because I was being so gentle and sparing with the color, is that I had a hard time seeing what areas I actually had already covered with the chainmail silver, the chainmail gray, and what part was actually just still the gray primer. I've done a lot of YouTube videos in the past on different things. I've never done one like this before. This is kind of bizarre. This is like a director's commentary. I've never made a video like this. Now I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Should I cut this? Yeah, we'll see. So as I was getting towards the end, and I understand focus is a little hard on some of these parts. This is the first time I've ever shot a video like this, so we're going to be working out some kinks. But I did realize that when I was almost done the chainmail that I forgot to do the shield. And it says specifically in the Army Painter guide and everything that you should rinse out your your water glass for painting if you've just used any of the metallics, because of the small metallic bits like pieces in it. And I just wanted it to be known that I didn't do that. So if you don't do it, don't beat yourself up. I forgot exactly how the video had shown how they did the shield. I know they had those alternating, those two red, but I wasn't sure if it was blue on the other side or not, and I didn't feel like pulling up the video, so I just decided to go blue. But I think that it actually turned out fairly well, and especially once the gold trim gets applied, I genuinely liked how the finish came. Yes, stay focused like that. Oh, good Lord. The gold really did feel like it started to tie everything together. I still felt like I was just like, am I going to keep painting? Am I ever going to paint again? Am I going to quit after this? Why am I not immediately good at it? But I like that it did slowly but surely seem to take enough shape for me to really be enjoying myself. And then also after the gold, which I think started bringing things together, doing the wash. Now the wash was really was really out of my, not out of my comfort zone, but out of anything that I've ever done before. Because back in the day, in the early 2000s and the long ago, when I was painting, in 2001 and everything, basically you knew what washes were, sort of. You knew what Nuln oil was, like Games Workshop Citadel colors, but nobody had it. It was one of those things that you only enjoyed when you went to Games Workshop and looked at like the displays, or you were reading codexes or White Dwarfs and you saw like the heavy metal teams and everything doing their absolutely amazing paint jobs. I did not know a single person that had washes or oils, let alone use them. So this was an interesting thing for me, and I'm just about to start it. I know I kind of started talking a little. Did I start it? Where am I? Oh, there she is. I slap it on there pretty good, but then I just keep on wiping my brush on after I get it pretty, I make sure I get some coverage on it. I start wiping the brush on my paper towel just out of frame and just kind of using that to soak up any parts that have really started to puddle too much, or anything I thought looked a little too covered where it may take away any of the detail. But at first I did just kind of just toss it all over. All right, and we are going to stop there. We're not going to go any further with highlights because I am already pleased enough for my first guy. And yeah, and now here we have the finished product. I am happy enough with how it came out. I mean, now that it's been dry for a couple of days and I'm looking at it under a lot of extra scrutiny, you're your own worst enemy when it comes to this kind of thing. It's just you know, you just have to take it slow. This is my first model in over 2 decades. I was not very good painter. As for all intent and purposes, I am a beginner, and this is my first time going. So I'm hoping that anybody else could be a little inspired by this. Well, that was more stressful than it needed to be, but it was also fun. And most importantly, it didn't damper my want and need to paint more. And boy howdy, do I have more. 'Tis but a fraction of what I have. And we're going to be painting all of that here on this channel, just trying to get incrementally better, starting really slow. I am an absolute beginner at this, and I welcome any feedback, any tips within reason, and would love it if you shared with me your own painting journey if you're also just getting started. And or if you're just a pro and you might get first. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again very soon. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself.